Good morning, everyone, and I'm glad to see you again after the summer break as we continue with our series Beyond Words. With this initiative, we explore the values that guide us at IIT through the voices of distinguished speakers from the world of scientific research. For those who are joining us for the first time today, let me recap what we have discussed so far. In our opening talk, we explore the value of courage with Immaculata De Vivo, professor at Harvard Medical School, and we learn how courage has been essential in her personal journey to connect cancer research with spirituality and prosocial behaviors. Then we explore the value of societal responsibility with Professor Elizabeth Southberg, who is professor of environmental economics at the Free University of Bozen. With her, we discover the concrete action that we can take to build a more sustainable future. For the last seminar of this series, we will explore the value of inclusion, focusing on neurodiversity and how we can foster inclusivity in the workplace. Today's seminar focuses on the value of integrity. We will explore its meaning within scientific research and its impact on society. Together, we will reflect on artificial intelligence and how integrity can shape the way we design and use technology for the better. Guiding us in this journey will be Raja Chatila, Emeritus Professor from Sorbonne University, and I'm pleased to hand over to Alessandra Sciuzzi, who will introduce him and give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, it is a great honor to introduce Professor Raja Chatila. He is a leading voice at the intersection of artificial intelligence, robotics, and ethics, and it has been for decades. He directed the Institute of Intelligent Systems and Robotics in Paris, served as president of the IEEE Robotics and Automation Society, and currently chairs the IEEE Global Initiative on the Ethics of Autonomous and Intelligent Systems. He has also contributed his expertise to global and European policy as co-chair of the Responsible AI Working Group within the Global Partnership on AI, and as a member of the European Commission's High-Level Expert Group on AI. His achievements have been, among others, been recognized with the IEEE Robotics and Automation Pioneer Award. Today, he will guide us through a vital theme, that is how integrity and ethics can anchor our relationship with AI in a time of rapid transformation and misinformation. Please welcome Raja Chatila.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And thank you for inviting me to be with you today. I already came to IIT in the past couple of times for, I would say, more scientific focused reasons. So I'm happy to be back and to speak about something else, which is integrity. Not an easy topic, actually, when I was contacted to speak about this. And I had to do the groundwork to prepare this presentation. So, this is not the slide number that suddenly became a giant. It's just to introduce the notion of integrity. So we speak about, in English, integer numbers. In French, they are called the same thing, entier. And in Italian, intero, I think. So it doesn't come, of course, from the different languages because it came already some time ago when these numbers were identified and also theorized. It wasn't just a means for counting sheep or people. It's interesting that the word integer, intero, was actually used to designate these numbers because the foundational idea is wholeness. They designate something that is whole, that is not into pieces, like other numbers, of course, real numbers or fractions. And basically, they were opposed to fractions, which include things which are not entire, which are not integer. I think this first approach to integrity shows us already something which is really important that we will actually see during the whole talk. It's this idea of putting things together in a way that the result has a kind of harmony. So when you speak about words, you try to find what this means in general. I turned out to Wikipedia. Wikipedia page on integrity is very interesting and complex, and I tried to build a word cloud around it. And this is what I got. Of course, there are a lot of things that shouldn't be here because they are in the Wikipedia page. I tried to remove some, but didn't completely succeed. So some words are not really meaningful. However, you can see, and you know, the size of the word in these algorithm for word cloud is related to how much they are repeated, the importance on their repetition in the document or in the source. So you see the idea of one that comes, consistency, consistent, ethics, values, consequences. It's, of course, I'm not going to speak about everything. Honesty, I'm pointing out to honesty. You will see in a minute why. And again, it conveys the idea of a unity, of something that puts things together. But what does it put together? Well, you have truthfulness, morality, authenticity, honesty, consistency, etc. This reflects more a philosophical stand on integrity because this page in Wikipedia is a philosophical page, actually. But of course, these concepts that we have spoke about earlier, that were presented earlier, honesty or courage, are also philosophical concepts, and they come from long time ago, from the Greeks actually, who formulated the virtues. We'll get back to virtues, but in our modern times, in the era of ChatGPT and generative AI, you have to look also on what those AI systems interpret. I will avoid the word understand because they don't understand how they interpret our own words, because they are going to generate words. They are going to use our words. So I turned out to GPT and looked for the cosine similarity with integrity. And so I got this. What is this? This figure shows the cosine similarity, which is, as you know, a basically the dot product of the vectors that represent the word in the space that has been built from the pre-training of the system. And I selected the words that had the highest correlation factor, ranging from approximately 6.5 to 4.5. So this is why you see this spiral here is the values of the correlations, and starting from a word which has the highest correlation. I'm going to try to do something here on my screen. Yeah. I think I cannot be bigger. So it starts with honesty, actually. This has the highest correlation factor. And then down, etc. The last word is around the one just before, which is difficult to read, but it's something like more or less opposite, actually. distrustless, etc. So let's take these words here. You see, honesty is the most important, which means when you go to ChatGPT and start to speak about integrity, it will come up with the higher correlations, as you know, and then build over this. So you will have things related to honesty, things related to accuracy, loyalty, trustworthiness, etc. This is how AI interprets AI systems and specifically large language models. They have different, of course, approaches. As you know, word2vec is not the same as GPT, etc. But basically, when you as it and we'll get back to these issues. When you go to ChatGPT to ask it to write a piece on integrity, it will put these words, of course, and these words make sense. Well, why? Because as you have seen in the word cloud, they are usually used in conjunction with the word integrity. So they reflect what we use with the word integrity, but they reflect it in a different way. And the way they reflected it with is this correlation. It's not about, again, understanding what integrity is as much as my first slide, which was my second slide rather, which was the one sorry, the one that why isn't this moving? Oops. No, I'm now. Yes, this is one way to do it.
Yeah,
That's brute force.
This one?
No, yes, thank you. So no, I wanted to get back here, yeah, and of course it's also reflecting what is here, but in a different way, because this page is one page only in Wikipedia. It's not the whole representation of billions of text items or tokens that have been extracted from the internet. And so let's spend some time speaking about how I understand integrity and how I see it. So I'm no philosopher. I'm, as it has been mentioned, I'm a scientist in computer science, robotics, AI. But also, as has been mentioned, I've been interested for some time now in the ethical dimensions of these domains. And I feel myself to be lucky to work in a domain that raises so many ethical issues, because it's a very rich reflection that we can have. But at the same time, I've been asked by actually a student a week ago. I was giving a talk on generative AI, and she asked me, "Why are you doing this?" And that's a great question. Actually, I'll get back to that. Anyway, so what is integrity? When you look to the philosophical references, you see many things. Many things which actually put in perspective different views of philosophers. And sometimes also, as you know, as everyone, philosophers might change their minds, and what they were saying about a concept, they might say something different sometime later, and that's also interesting because it's the whole reflection of philosophers. What I found, anyway, is something that reflects this notion of wholeness. And I found what happens to the white light when it goes into a prism, a way to represent this idea, actually. So as you know, white light is composed by different wavelengths, and the prism reveals, rainbow reveals what are those components which are more one wavelength colors. I mean, the lights with one wavelength, which are specific colors. but they all add to provide the white light, and white light is what we are accustomed to because our sun is mostly white, white star. But we have the impression that the white light is one thing, whereas it's composed of several wavelengths. And if we focus on each wavelength, we have different things. We have different colors. So these are the colors of integrity, if you wish, that I tried to list here. Uh, Integrity comes with the idea that it's we have as humans different facets of our personality, different ways to act actually and to think, given situations, given our, of course, specific interest in some situations. We have different facets of our personalities, and integrity comes with the idea that we need something to unite this. These facets might be contradictory. Sometimes we feel maybe happy, sometimes we feel angry, sometimes we feel mean, sometimes we feel more courageous, sometimes we feel more scary, whatever. But we have a personality that is controlling all this in a way. And this is our integrity. It's not necessarily the same as the integrity which comes with another perspective, which is actually building our identity. The identity is a concept that feels to be the same over time. We feel to be the same as we were 3 years ago or a child. We feel it's related to our own self-awareness. Maybe we've done different things. Maybe we change more or less our personality, by the way, but we feel to be the same at the same time. So also integrity is this idea of integrating over time, or a persistent way to feel ourselves of what we are. And with this integrity, we tend also to look on ourselves as, observe ourselves, and in a way justify ourselves to ourselves over time. We have done things that we don't really like today, maybe in the past, but still it is part of us. So this integrity over time, this persistence, this consistency is also a perspective that is important within this notion of integrity. So it's identity over time. Excuse me, I have to drink some water. And it's also controlling oneself, because we have different desires, and these desires conflict with each other. But we have some unity in our behavior. So we have also to be able to control our different desires. We are not just doing things and then other things and so on. There is, again, some persistence in behavior. We sometimes also commit to some principles. Categorical principles means things that you have to abide with. People have principles. Everyone has principles. They are not necessarily the same, because we have different views on the world. We have different contexts. But integrity is also committing on those principles. It's not just about yourself. It's about things you believe, things that for you are so important that you have to respect them at all times and commit with them. So, for example, if an important categorical principle for you is related to faith in some religion, for example, well, it's going to control, in a way, the way you act. if you consider that it is categorical and that this faith really is important for you every day. It might be also some other important principle. So it's also about following some moral obligations that you didn't come up with, but that you respect and you want to respect at all times. Finally, integrity is not just about yourself. It's about yourself in society. It's how you act in societies. What is your role? How do you behave with respect to other people? Of course, this is a component. It's related. It's one component of this white light, but you are not alone. And as long as you have to decide on how you behave with respect to others, others see you as one and expect you to act in a given way. So this is your integrity in society because you are here to uh, act in society and people are expecting from you some kind of, say, uh, also consistent behavior. This applies very much to people who have responsibilities because they are put in these responsibilities because they are perceived as able to commit and to act with respect to others. They are responsible of something which is related to others. Uh, it's not because they have principles. It's not because they control their personality, etc. Is about the way they act in this responsibility with respect to others. And this is also part of your how you are perceived, of your perceived identity, not necessarily your real identity. Uh, so following moral obligations, like categorical principles, but moral obligations and how you act with others is also a facet of integrity. So there is a whole discussion actually. Uh, is integrity a value or is it a virtue? So, in Greek philosophy, basically, the virtue was something important because it's the character of a person. It's how this person acts. And, courage, which is one of your values, is actually a trait of character. People act with courage, or people are generous. This is the way they act. This is the way they are. It's not necessarily what they value, which is something they want to respect. So, for example, justice. Justice is also a complex, very complex context, word and notion. Uh, Justice can be a principle. It can be a value, something that we want to achieve, that we cherish, and we want to live in a just society. But also, it might be a virtue, which is the way you behave in a way that is just. Uh, so it's also a complex thing. My take on integrity, again, I'm no philosopher, so I'm not going to innovate in this domain, uh, although innovating with philosophy seems to be something very tough. Uh, I tried to summarize. And you see, my summary is actually quite large. Uh, it's at the same time, integrity is at the same time something that defines who you are by putting together all these pieces to make you you, into, and to make you an integral, I would say, person. But it's also about where you stand with respect to others. This is part also of integrity. And it defines also why you act. And this is more the value perception of integrity. Why do I do this? Because I respect, I want this value to be achieved, and so on. And it defines also how you act. And this is more the virtue perspective on integrity. It's not either or between these four concepts. I mean, these four components. It's all this at the same time, and this applies to people but it applies to organizations as well. The organization, any organization, is in place because it has a raison d'être. It's a reason to be here. Why is this organization here? It has a reason. Who is it? Or what is it in the case of organization, even if it has a moral personality? And what is its role? And why does it do this? And how does it do it? It's the same question. So acting with integrity or being an integer person or organization is also something that can be considered. And so IIT has integrity among its values and also its virtue, as I said, the way it acts. And it has all these components that it's up to you, actually, as members of the organization to put in place in the real world through what you do, what you think. Let me move now to another aspect of this notion of integrity, trying to go back in a way to where I come from, which is more science and scientific research. So when you consider ethics, integrity, as I said, is a philosophical concept, and ethics is, of course, something that stems from philosophy, from moral philosophy. But when you analyze the word ethics, it has different components. And we also face an issue of language, because in English, it has different meanings, whereas in French or in Italian, actually, it's more distinguishable from notions such as deontologia or deontology, but it's called ethics in English. So I see four components in which ethics and integrity are related. The first one is called ethics in English, as I said. It's deontology, actually. It's rules. It's not rules that you decided for yourself. It's rules that must be followed when you are in a given profession. For example, lawyers or medical doctors have to respect confidentiality of their patients or clients. The way you do your practice, you have to respect certain means. You have, for medical doctors, the oath of Hippocrates, which specifies some of those rules. But it's also related to you being, well, this is where the word integrity comes into play, which is how do you manage your conflicts of interest? And conflicts of interest come in different ways, as you know. All of us probably have signed some form stating links of interest or possible conflicts of interest. If you are, for example, a member of a jury and you have a relationship, special relationship to the candidate, you have to either not be member at all or leave the room. So you have some rules like that, and these are related to deontology, but you see the integrity part of them is also there. It comes also with how you communicate on your work, on the profession you are exerting. So that's one part. I wanted to recall it. The second part is called integrity, actually. But here we speak about scientific integrity. I'll spend some time speaking about this later on. It's how you behave in your professional practice as a scientist, because we are a profession, we have rules. So we have rules that must be followed. But then what do you do yourself with this? For example, plagiarism falls here. It might be in the first part as well, but it falls here because there are many ways to do plagiarism, actually. And it's not always easy nowadays, especially with AI tools, to find out if you are doing plagiarism or not. It's also respect of colleagues. This is something that might also be in the first part, but it's also how do you respect colleagues? What does it mean? How do you publish with them? How do you run your experiments? How do you present your results? All this come with the notion of scientific integrity. Then you have operational ethics, which is another part of ethics, which relates to how you conduct your research protocols, especially if they involve human beings. If you do, for example, research in the medical domain or in psychology, for example, or in human robot interaction, for example, well, you have to experiment with human subjects. How do you define your protocols so that you respect those subjects, those people, and involve also humans, also animals, not only humans. It might involve also the environment, which is how do you impact the environment with your research protocol. All this has been organized in the research community, and we have research ethics committees or IRB, institutional review boards that are in place to whom you have to address your research protocol, and they give you advice about how to conduct it so that you keep you abide with the ethical principles. Also, these committees look on other things such as data, for example, and respect of the legal commitments to how you manage data. And finally, if we step a little bit upwards in a way to see the things as a whole, you have ethics in science and technology. It's not about specific project or protocol or a conduct that must be an experiment that must be made. It's about the ethical issues raised by topics, research topics, or some technologies which actually challenge societies, challenge the environment, challenge ourselves. And this is, for example, the case specifically about AI and robotics that I mentioned before. So what I would like to add to this is this question that this student asked me. Because here you have ethics and integrity after you came to a given research, a given domain. You are there. And then how do you do this? But the question is, why are we doing this, actually, in the first place? Why am I doing this? And this escapes, most of the time, all these reflections, all these definitions of ethics that I mentioned earlier. It's asking why. Why is the technology that I'm working on, or the scientific domain I'm working on, being developed? What are the objectives, actually? What does it lead to? What are the what are the intended consequences? What are the risks? It's a very tough question, because it's a question that must be asked with a reality check, in a way. You cannot speak about the future because you cannot really predict what the future is going to be. Did, for example, Marie Skłodowska-Curie, was she able to predict the atomic bomb? She worked on the early days of the discovery of radioactivity and isolated radium and so on. But at that time, was it possible, scientifically speaking, to imagine already that that about 50 years later, almost, an atomic bomb will exist and kill people? That's difficult to say. So we cannot really predict the future of a given technology, but we can perceive at least some dimensions that are raised about it. So why are we doing this? Most companies, for example, I'm speaking about private companies because they have interest, whereas academia usually doesn't have at least a profit interest. So academia usually justify their work with open scientific questions. They justify the work with advancing knowledge, which is very noble, of course. But the question is, should we advance knowledge in all domains? Shouldn't we live in ignorance? Well, that's, of course, a question that can be asked, but personally, I have the answer. If you don't like knowledge, well, try ignorance, and let's see what happens. Uh, and you see, most um, dictatorships actually like ignorance. They put people in ignorance. But companies, no, companies have much higher objectives. And I'm sorry to say that, but this is the way. They want to save humanity. I don't know about any industry that doesn't start its stating its objective as things that are beneficial to humanity. You just state the domain, and I will show you the company that says this. They are not here to neither build the technology or make money or advance knowledge. No, they are here to save humanity in different domains. The water distribution company is here to give you life, which is water. And the AI company is here to give you an assistant that will not replace you, but will be really, really helpful in making your job easier. And also for providing systems with very high level of intelligence so that it solves, well, you name it. It solves health problems, all illness. It solves famine. It solves of course, climate crisis, etc. I mean, I'm not inventing. I'm citing. So I think to answer this question, we need some real reflection, and this reflection comes with an integrity on our part. We have to ask ourselves to answer the question why. It has, of course, a part which is advancing knowledge, but we have to ask to understand what we are doing, who is involved actually in who does it, and who would it impact, who or what. In the case, I'm extending to the environment, which is a what, not to animals, which is a kind of who, depending on your philosophy. But who is involved? What is why am I doing this? Where there is money coming from somewhere? Who is funding? What are their interests? Who is developing? Who is going to be using it if it's a technology, or whom is it going to impact? Those are all stakeholders of the domain or the topic or the technology itself. And we have to analyze what is the impact on all these people and over time, because things sometimes accumulate. It's not just an immediate effect. What are the values that are impacted for those peoples? People have different values, of course, and different ways to appreciate these values. So we have to analyze this. It's not an easy thing to understand. You have to ask them, actually, basically, or ask specialists who know about those different categories. You have to understand the values in more details. We need philosophers and psychologists to understand a little bit more in details the values, because they are really complex usually. I mean, I spend some time thinking about integrity. Other values are also complex, maybe not as much, and how values contradict each other. Tensions. There are tensions between values. Sometimes you want two things at the same time, which are contradictory. My favorite example is here. one is freedom and security. We want both, of course. But now I'm unfortunately going to leave back this evening on the plane. There is no train which is really realistic to take between Paris and Genoa, but it means that at some point I will have to lower my freedom claims and give my luggage and all my things to someone who is controlling what's I'm having to enter the plane. So security here, of course, reduces my freedom. Why do I accept this? Well, this is the question. It's a way to resolve a tension. And sometimes even if you have tensions, you have priorities. This is what as I just mentioned. So then this gives you maybe a lead to make your choices. Either you stop your research in this domain because stakes are too high, for example, and at the end you don't want to do it, or you find solutions to do it which actually respect those values and are enable you to conduct the research correctly. Now, leaving the question why, let me go to the question how. We have to speak about these issues of research integrity, which was one of my topics in science research. Well, fortunately, a lot of people have thought about this, and there are a lot of documents actually that you can refer to. I mentioned a few here. One of them that I'm quoting is a document that is produced by the European Federation of Academies of Sciences and Humanities, ALEA, and also with the European Science Foundation, and also with other institutions. I put two, one in Italy, one in France. Ethics, the CNR Research Ethics and Integrity Committee and Office in France, we call it. It's Office of Scientific Integrity. And there are others in other countries. So these reflections led to identify principles. So the integrity principles as put forward by these institutions and should be applied by all research organizations, universities, etc., are for reliability in ensuring the quality of research. And this, of course, is reflected in the design, methodologies, etc. Honesty, which is number one choice for GPT with respect to integrity. Honesty in developing, undertaking, reviewing, reporting, etc. You are honest. What the honest means, well, that's another maybe talk, but it's related to truthfulness, of course, not lying, but also more other things as well. Respect for colleagues. So it means how do you work with people, how research subjects, society, ecosystems. The dimension is really wide. Cultural heritage, the environment. So this notion of respect is, of course, to be translated concretely in what you do exactly. Accountability, and that's important, I think, because we forget often that we are accountable. When we decide to do something, we are accountable for the result and for how we do it. And this is it. When you are accountable, you are also legally liable sometimes. And for example, some institutions have procedures in place to put on those people who are not following the rules or the principles some constraints. For example, they might be expelled from the organization for maybe some time or definitely. So I will continue with this document and identified. It's like a few pages. It's not very long, but it's quite interesting because it has details in it and about who and what, who are the actors and what are the responsibilities of each of them according to the roles and context, and try to summarize here the responsibilities of the research, what they call research environment, which are the organizations, mostly the institutions. They have to support and to put in place procedures to make this integrity possible, to not only possible, but also enforceable. They have to, for example, supervise. They have to put in place mentoring and training curricula. Also, researchers themselves, for example, a PhD student and the PhD advisor have to have this relationship in which the advisor mentor the new researcher about how to respect integrity. The researchers themselves have to follow research procedures. First, of course, they have to know the state of the art, work to advance the state of the art, the way they look for documentation, etc. I'm not going to detail. I see already the time has passed, but you have a lot of things that are defined on who should behave how and which are the responsibilities. One point about data, because I didn't mention it until now very much, and we deal with a lot of data, as you know. Well, you have the GDPR, which is the European regulation on personal data. Actually, data protection mostly is about personal data. But you have also the FAIR principles, which means that what you did produce is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And this is for the quality of science, because in many technologies, actually, we relate to systems that we develop. And of course, the other institution, which is on the other side of the Atlantic, maybe, or of the Alps, had a different system to do the same thing. How do you compare? It's not something that you observe in nature. In physics, you can observe something in nature and it's replicable because anyone else could observe it. You give the procedure. But here, no. So these FAIR principles apply very much also to research with developing systems and technologies that provide data and provide algorithms and provide systems that could be reproducible, so that what you have done can be checked, actually. Jumping to the last one, reviewing and assessment, we spent a lot of time reviewing papers, and this has rules as well. How do you review papers? This is part of integrity, and how also as editors sometimes, and of course there are companies who edit, but also as editors in scientific journal, we should behave. So, for example, what not to do, just to be concrete. Three no's. You don't make up data or result. It's fabrication. You don't manipulate experiments so that they fit what you want to really say. Oh, these points really don't match my curve. Let's forget them. No, because actually you are not doing science in this case. Plagiarism, which has multiple forms, but of course you have to give credit to other people. Once I reviewed a paper, I started to read it. It was exactly a paper by Antonio Bicchi, whom those who work on robotics know very well. He's part of IIT, he's in Pisa. It was word by word. I mean, if I didn't know the work of Antonio, I wouldn't have noticed that. This is very interesting. Well, it was just word by word. So, plagiarism. This is, maybe you think it's easy to notice. No, you have software that checks for plagiarism. don't work so good with AI generated systems, which is an issue. I will come back to that. But here's one example of which is a known curve, but I've taken it here. The source is Time Magazine some time ago already. Maybe all of you heard about the singularity, which based on how computer power evolves, and you know that computer power evolves exponentially. It's more or less, just to approximate, multiplied by 2 every 2 years. Actually, it's 18 months, etc. It's called the Moore law. Moore is was the Intel CEO, and he came up with this observation. It's an observation that the pace with the pace with which the companies produce more and more integration of the chips is such that the capacity, the capability, the computing capability grows. It's multiplied by 2 every 18 months. So you have this curve, which is interesting as such. But you know that this results from a complex process, which is related to the technological means put in place by the companies to build more and more integrated systems. Of course, related to research. It's related to the commercial possibility to put this on the market. It has many components. The result is this law. It's not a law of nature, right? But when you mix it with another observation, which is on the first line up there, the accelerating pace of change. So you have it starts with the agricultural revolution 8,000 years ago. Then it jumps to the industrial revolution. Nothing happened in between, of course. And it's now with the human genome. That was in the years of this publication here. In the human genome sequencing. And of course, we are in the era of generative AI today, and so on. And they consider this comparable to the exponential growth of computers. That already is nice hypothesis that is not explained. What's the connection? They decided that the accelerating pace of change by selecting specific dates is exponential as well. Now, of course, it's increasing, but the idea of exponential curve is quite different. And to the right, you have this comparison of the computer power with the mouse brain, the human brain, and all humanity's brains at all time. And there is one point where computing power will reach this power of the humanity's brains. And this is the singularity. Because when you have a computer with this power, which is higher than every human and as much high as all humanity, computers, will be able to do anything they want because they surpass us, actually. A lot of confusions in this figure. But you know, the theory of singularity has its proponents, basically, for example, Ray Kurzweil and others. I mean, it's very powerful people who are in the large Californian companies, Google, etc. It's not just people speculating. You have the Singularity University, all based on this view of the world that at some point computers will surpass humans. And today with AI systems, of course, we can see this discourse. Sam Altman speaks every day about AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is human level cognitive intelligence. And of course, when you have AGI, the next day you have super intelligence because AGI is able to produce super intelligence. And the third day is the singularity because we're doomed. This kind of things, for me, fall in this falsification and fabrication process. You put together things that don't have anything to do with each other. You come up with a theory, and this theory, because of the power of those who support it, becomes a common theory. I mean, papers speak about this. Public opinion knows about this. Politicians knows about this, etc. So I want to converge to my conclusion and getting back to AI, generative AI, and specifically in education and research, because this is what interests us here in terms of integrity. In France, we have a committee which is called the Digital Ethics Committee, National Digital Ethics Committee. It has worked on several issues in digital ethics. So it's the fourth line of my ethics definition here when you reflect on topics, on issues, not on specific project. So we worked on, for example, so-called autonomous cars, on diagnostic with AI systems, on the metaverse, etc. Many topics. You can find all the reports in French and English if you look at this QR code here. In June 23, we published one on generative AI and identified several ethical issues I'm summarizing here, but one of them is use in education and research. Focusing on this, we have to recall that generative AI systems have inherent issues, inherent limitations. One of them is that they are not grounded in the real world. They, as you know, are based on large language models are based on using words and as you have seen, statistically correlating words, even not words, tokens, which means words decomposed into chains of characters which don't have any meaning, but they are correlated statistically. So it's interesting because they bring in statistics very, very importantly. It's at the basis of their workings, but they say the output is not about a statistical correlation. It's about the real world, actually, because the words that are the output of AI systems are the words we use, and we have meanings of those words. And we spend a lot of time discussing about the meaning of one word. For example, I've been spending 1 hour about integrity, and, which is already too long. But here you have this correlation, and you have things about the real world, but the system don't understand the real world. They understand it, if I use the word with many codes, through what they found on the internet about correlation between words. It's not the real world. It's not even semantics. It's not even meaning. Well, of course, people working in linguistics have this notion of semantics, and it says, for example, that the meaning of a word depends on the other words that surround it. This is true when you read a book. If you want to understand the sentence, it depends what you have read before, because many things are related to what you have read before, sometimes to what you are going to read after, because sometimes the explanation is coming. It's not, the word is not alone, but this is not enough. It doesn't give the pragmatics, which is what the word means in reality and what it means really in its relation to us. Other things about limitations on generalization, etc., mixture of false and true information. So this, if you want to use it in scientific research, some people recently published a paper. It's cited here, Anderson and others, published in 2025. They tried to look how people in scientific research use generative AI, and they found three main uses. As a linguistic assistant, you have to, of course, mostly write your papers mostly in English, I would say, but you are Dutch or you are French or Italian, so you can use it as a linguistic assistant to better phrase your words, or to accelerate and automate processes. For example, creating data, automating data analysis, some practical tasks. I don't know, build the slides for me. The research accelerator, like ideas. Well, I don't know. Let's ask ChatGPT. So summarize the state of the art on X. Write a summary of this and this and this paper. Drawing, writing, whatever. It's absolutely interesting because it's a tool that really can accelerate what we are doing in all sense. Well, what's the problem then? Well, it can be helpful, of course, in these directions, but only if it's used by competent users. So if you are a PhD student on your first day and the advisor told you, well, I think we are going to work on, I don't know, for example, say robot motion planning. Well, you get back to your desk and ChatGPT tell me all the state of the art on robot motion planning, and you have all the state of the art on robot motion planning as seen by ChatGPT. What did you miss? 80% of it. So because you are not a competent user, you are going to have to see the world through the eyes of those systems. And those systems are going to match what is on the internet. And what is on the internet is not necessarily what is represented in the best books on the state of the art on robot motion planning. I can advise you a couple of books, but maybe they are not the majority on what is on ChatGPT. Also, the risk is plagiarism because you don't know who wrote all these things. It might give you sources, but you can take things as really something that has been summarized. I'm not speaking about state of the art. Anything else actually is a plagiarism problem because it's taking data and knowledge from other places. You risk to fall into incremental research because if you are looking for new ideas, it's not going to give you new ideas. It's going to give you something that is based on the statistical state of the art as seen by ChatGPT. So you are not going to invent something new, and you risk to use false concepts that are presented. Again, I will not go into the end because I see time has passed, but there is something which is there is a responsibility, accountability of doing this because of all those risks and what you take from it. You will be responsible of it. It's not ChatGPT. It's not OpenAI. I'm not citing OpenAI specifically, but other companies neither. So you have to be aware also of your responsibility. And you have to be aware about the environmental impacts of those systems. As you know, data that is the source of the pre-training is collected and the systems are pre-trained in data centers and so on. And this has a major environmental impact, which is growing in terms of resources, any kind of resources. I mean, even the material to build the data center, water for cooling, and of course, energy, whatever the source of energy, it has an impact, and emissions related to this source of energy. To conclude, in all cases, integrity imposes on you to be transparent about what you do. So if you want to use ChatGPT with all these risks and all these issues that are open, you must say that you've used it and how did you use it. And by the way, this follows the law because in the European AI Act, it is said that AI systems should be output should be marked, which should be detectable as such. And the burden of doing this is on the companies, not on you. But as an individual, if you use an AI system to do something, you have to say that you have used it to do this thing. And this is going to become certainly an obligation also in publications. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Professor Chatila. It was very inspiring, and thank you also for make the topic accessible to people who are not directly involved in the scientific research area. There was something that you said at the beginning that really caught my attention, and was the concept about that you build integrity with time and consistency, and that sometimes on an individual level, of course, on a personal level, is something that you use to justify yourself to yourself. And then I think that after that, then you make, you decide what action to take, and that is what has an impact on society then. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. Actually, when I ask people to register to the seminar, I also ask if they had any question to anticipate. So I have two. So maybe before your question, we are going to. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your really amazing talk. I was a bit puzzled by the strong statement you made that companies' goal is improving humanity, because I feel or I see a lot of companies acting in ways, in non-integral ways, in particular towards environment and climate crisis acting. I don't see where for some big oil companies want to improve humanity.
Yes, thank you for the question. What I'm saying is, this is what they claim. I'm not going to cite names. I'm going to cite technologies. But every other day, you hear a CEO of an AI company saying, AI, not me, I'm just doing this. AI is going to solve all the world's problems. Okay, health, etc., etc., climate crisis. So they claim that they are developing a technology that is going to save humanity. They are not, in my opinion, doing this. Of course, it's obvious that all the problems that they mentioned are so uh, large and complex and so on that AI is not going to solve anything. AI might be a tool, but not what they claim. So the claim of the companies is to do good. If I have time, I want to say something about this. So it's there's a conference called AI for Good also. AI for Good. Okay. So always when you and this is generalizable, not just for AI. People claim that when they do something which is basically some technological work, whatever it is for doing good things. It's not for doing bad things. So the story I'm going to tell you. I was member of the high-level expert group on AI, which in the years 2018 to 20 worked with the European Commission for two things. One is called ethics guidelines, and the other is called recommendations for investment and so on. And on this, the European Commission built its AI strategy. And finally, the AI Act actually is based on the ethical recommendations, actually, which were 7 and key requirements. And these were based on principles. So the 4 principles put forward by the group, 52%, were largely inspired by work of Luciano Floridi, but not only him, but also by work of bioethics people. Bioethics, you have also four main principles. The first one is beneficence. What you do must be beneficial. The second is non-malfeasance. What you do should not involve harm. Autonomy of whom? Of the human, the patient, etc. They decide. And justice, which means equality of treatment and so on. This is bioethics. So we had a long discussion about the first one, beneficence. And it wasn't retained among the four principles of put forward by the group and four principles of AI. A fourth principle, so we had three left, which were the same, most of safety and autonomy and oversight of humans and justice and so on, and fairness, all these translated in other words. And one was added, which is explainability. What AI does should be explainable. Why did beneficence disappear? Well, because we had the long discussion, and basically it boils down to the fact that you cannot demonstrate that a given technology is necessarily beneficent. So we don't know. How can we put it in the principle? It means any company that comes should sign something saying, I'm doing things that are beneficial, and companies don't want to do this.
Thank you.
Okay, so there was a question from Stefano, and the question was, the advent of artificial general intelligence has been raising in the scientific and tech communities serious concerns about the future of human society. What is your opinion about it?
Let me read it again.
This one.
Has been raising the scientific and tech community research about the future of human society. What is your opinion? Okay, so usually thank you, Stefano, when you have a question like this in France, in the baccalaureate, which is the last year of high school, you have the exam, and one of them is philosophy, and it's a sentence like this, and they have 4 hours. So to make things short, I would say that for me, I mean, personally, I will say a couple of things. First, that the concept of artificial general intelligence is not defined. So we don't know what we are speaking about. Some people, and this is the most common definition, if you want to make a definition, is human level cognitive intelligence, which means the AI system is able to solve any problem a human being with a normal cognitive capacity can solve. But is this a definition? Because I still don't understand what it is about. But let's say that it is this. It's building a kind of artificial human being, if you wish. But if it's just AI, not a robot, it's not embodied. It will have problem living in the real world. The question is then, concretely, how would we do this? Again, speaking about Sam Altman, for example, he promises this AGI for to be coming every 5 months or something. The next version of ChatGPT will be AGI, etc., and we still don't see it. So for me, it's an ill-defined problem, scientifically speaking. AGI is an ill-defined problem. We don't know what it is, and we don't know how to develop it. The way they do it is, in my opinion, wrong, mistaken, scientifically speaking, because it is putting a lot of data and training a system which will provide a statistical model of this data. Well, statistics is not causality. Statistics is not reasoning. Now, of course, you can call something a reasoning model. When you look, it doesn't reason. When you test, it doesn't reason. So calling it a reasoning model doesn't make it a reasoning model. And calling something AGI doesn't make it AGI. So be careful about this discourse. Now, that's one point. And I think it's really essential and important, because I don't see how we can achieve AGI, scientifically speaking, today and for a long time. Now, I'm a scientist. I'm not saying it's impossible, because we have already a natural GI, which is humans. Humans are natural intelligent systems also, although we don't define intelligence neither. We don't know what it is. But let's suppose that science at one point in time, I don't know when, is able to understand all these processes, phenomenon, etc., and replicate them or simulate them, because it's about simulation. Let's suppose one day we do this. This is, of course, a major, major existential problem for humans, because they have to decide what to do with this. I'll let them decide. Today, I'm not going to say how we do this, because we don't know what we are talking about, and it's not going to be emerging like that just over the weekend.
Thank you very much. You mentioned very important principles, and I have a question. I understood that some of them are ruled by laws and procedures and so forth. The question is, in the community, how, if you do it, measure integrity in terms of scientists and researchers, and how you take that into account in evaluating the scientist and results? Apart from, well, we know we got laws and procedures that try to, in some cases, manage that. But the question is the scientific community taking into account integrity, measuring it, and when they evaluate the researchers, the scientists, and their results, and how they do it?
Yes, this is an important question, is how do you enforce these topics and so on. So there is, I mentioned those roles and so on, which is putting in place the mechanisms, the safeguards, etc. What I didn't mention, for example, is the means that are also existing. And how to detect that something is wrong, and also how to prevent it. So actually preventing it is basically about education of the scientific community. It's explaining what the issues are, what they should and shouldn't do, but how do you measure it? Well, the point is that you don't measure it. It's not a continuous function that you can, or phenomenon that you can measure. You can detect breaches. So breaches, for example, is detecting in a publication that someone has tampered with the results. But it's just detection. It means someone had to read this paper, analyze it, and see that something is wrong here. So you have a few whistleblowers like this who do this, actually, and you have some websites specialized in this, reviewing papers and trying to detect if something is wrong. But given the mass of papers that are published, of course, they cannot do everything. But yeah, this is one actor. You have some whistleblowers in labs who are interested in this. But sometimes you have conflicts of interest you have to detect, because the reason behind this whistle being blown, well, might be not so noble. And you have, at least in France, we have it, in each research organization or university, you have someone in charge of this. It's a kind of ombudsman or something, I don't know how we call it, who is responsible for integrity. And if you want to say that someone made a breach to integrity, you go to him or to her and explaining this. So they can conduct a inquiry to find out. As I said, in France, we have this office, and in Italy, you have it also. So there's a committee also that looks at these kind of things. It's not a complete system that is, I mean, it's not something that you follow like you periodically test some things and so on. But at least there are mechanisms to detect breaches. There are mechanisms to make decisions about them. There are mechanisms to build this relationship to integrity between people and integrity. And it's not a complete system, certainly not.
Yes, I'll go ahead with this. There was Satish. His question was how to enforce safety on physical AI system.
Okay, another 4 hours. So yeah, the physical AI systems, which means robots, if you want, because they act in the real world, if they have safety issues, the consequences can be, of course, major. So let me. I'm not going to speak about robotics and safety. We had conducted a lot of projects, research projects in. I'm going to speak about it actually. A research project about safety, which is, for example, physical safety. There are a lot of results about physical safety. What is physical safety? So, and before physical safety has been more or less addressed and solved, a robot is a stiff mechanism, and if it moves with a given speed and acceleration, it's going to hurt anything or one that is in the path, of course. But if you build a control system, which is a compliant system, which detects the contact and the forces and stops or reduces the speed and acceleration, you have a robot that becomes much less dangerous. And this is a must for deploying robots and humans together in companies. Either robots are isolated in cages to do things alone, no humans around, or they work in a setting where they share the space, and robots must be in this case compliant, safe, and etc. Physical safety. It's not really about AI per se. It's about the physical design and control process of this robot. That's one point. The other point is about safety in terms of intelligence, if you wish, because it's not just a shock that might be harmful. It's other things that the robot might do and which could put human safety in danger. So here I'm going to turn to an example, and it's not from robotics, but it's, in my opinion, a very good example. It's aviation. Again, I'm going to take the plane. I hope it won't crash. Is it just a hope? Is it just a faith? Well, not really, because I know that behind this plane which is going to fly, there is a whole organization that makes me trust that the plane will probably, when I say probably, the probability is 10 minus 9 today. Okay, so 1 in billion will not crash. Of course, other things can happen, but technically speaking, it will not crash. What is this whole organization? Well, the industry has rules, has standards to follow, has procedures to follow. These procedures are enforced by laws. So they have accountability and they don't want to pay billions because their plane crashed. It's not just because they want to build nice planes. It's because there is a law. And there is a process to investigate who's responsible when something goes wrong. And there is a government, which means executive power, that enforces the law. It's not just the law, enforces the power. And there's, of course, the company who flies, which want also to abide by the same things. So you have a technical process which combines with a legal process that makes plane safer. And one of these processes is related to computers, because as you know, most of the time the plane is flown by computers, but not by humans, but the pilot is there. especially on long hauls. And it means the software in these computers have undergone validation processes that are very stringent, very. And this means that a problem that is arising from any algorithm or any procedures that is run by the computer is going to be processed, treated according to very well defined computing rules, actually, and redundancy, and so on and so on. So what I trust is not the plane, is this whole thing, the whole process. In robotics, in AI, etc., we don't have this. We have only parts of it. For example, for me, a law, which is the AI Act, is a component to answer this because it puts in place rules on any AI system that is put on the market. It's not perfect. It doesn't address everything. It has some, say, points that are wrongly addressed or not addressed at all, but it's important. This is the top legal context, and below it, you must have what I described, the responsible industry. This is not here. You must have the responsible and focused research on AI safety. This is not here. So we don't know what you are speaking about, basically, because some people relate safety to AGI, for example, and some people relate safety to the actual system that is going to make decisions so that something is going to happen. And this is technically not completely solved. So getting back to the question, which mentions physical AI system, I translated this with robots, but it's not only robots, because today people mention physical AI to mention systems, AI systems, generative AI systems, which are connected to maybe a machine or robot, a process, a real process. Well, this is not solved, especially with generative AI systems, despite the existence of the legal framework. The technology is not yet there.
Thank you very much for your talk. It was really interesting. I think one of the points you have touched, the one regarding the acceleration that AI is giving to many processes, especially the one regarding our career as researcher, is really interesting. It's very important at the moment. And I believe that one of the things that I've been seeing in the past years, in which AI has become much more prevalent in our production, for instance, and papers production, for instance, is the fact that I have the feeling that before I was supposed to make, I don't know, let's say 3 papers each year. Now with AI, I can make 10 maybe. And so I see that there might be also a risk that AI is seen just like a way to enlarge production and not to maybe enlarge quality, also quality of life, because maybe I can do 3 papers each year that was enough until 3 years ago, and use the same time, the time that I was supposed to have for the paper, just to do, I don't know, think about my well-being, for instance. And so I believe there is this risk as well, like to think, okay, now we have to be much more productive because with AI we can do 10 papers each month or 10 research projects each month. And one of the things that maybe can avoid this thing is also acknowledging that you are using AI more, because right now there is no regulation about it. Right now, if I write a paper for a conference and I use AI, it's not mandatory to say I've used that and how I use that. Because of course there are different ways. I can use that for analyzing my data or for writing or for linguistic help as well. So what do you think about the possibility of maybe having a mandatory acknowledgement of using AI?
Yes, that's a great question indeed. I think it should be mandatory. Today, in many papers, in many journals and so on, there is an obligation to mention ethical issues. For me, it's one of the ethical issues that you should mention. It's not just for journals or domains where you deal with experimenting on human subjects. It's an ethical issue. And therefore, it should be part of your ethical reporting. It means you are obliged to be transparent on some things, but but the questions that are asked are maybe not yet updated enough. This is where I see also the role of the ethical research committees in universities, in research institutions, which examine protocols usually, but also they can put in place a process for the ethical. I don't like the word compliance when I speak about ethics because it's not complying with law, but the way the ethical issues are addressed. And again, it's very important, in my opinion, when you use AI to be transparent. It's not like searching the web. It's much more. You described it. And therefore, being transparent, being explicit, it's not I used AI. It's which system I used, to do what, and how did I use the outputs, the result. Okay, so that's really major requirement, in my opinion, that should be enforced by all publishers, by all review processes, which means it's a responsibility on the whole organization of research to put this in place. But there's something more, because you quite rightly spoke about the productivity issue. We have to change or to update our evaluation processes of people. It's not number of papers. Even it's not the number of papers in high impact journals. This is completely wrong since the beginning. But it's and by the way, I raise my hat to the mathematicians because they completely despise this kind of thing. And we have to do the same. I mean, it's number of papers and so on. No one cares. Maybe it should be even considered as negative. I don't know. But yeah, but how do you measure, the question then, how do you measure the quality of papers? Well, it's not easy. I don't have a magic solution to that. And it's not the impact after many years. That's one element. It's not just something else has to be put in place for that. Fighting the laziness, the natural laziness of those who evaluate.
Thank you.
There's a question. Then I'm going to read out loud the one in the chat.
Yes, thanks, Aja, very much. I agree on all you said, even the answers to the questions that were asked. And stimulated by Francesca's question, I wanted to make a sort of a reference with the past. I mean, we have white hairs. I have more than you, but they are the same colors. I have the impression that talking about integrity, the evolution since we were young students to today has not been very much in terms of the way you do science. You do experiments and you try to see what others are doing. There have been a lot of changes. Of course, we were going to the library once time. Now we sit in front of a screen and ask, to download all the references and so on and so forth. But I think that, so there has been changes, but I think that the big changes in terms of the importance of integrity has been on the communication of science. Not only in relation to how we publish. I mean, now, in the past, you had to go through peer review. Now you can publish papers with no reviews, and these papers are then cited from other papers. So a mistake can be spread all over very fast. And social networks is the same. People claiming to be very good because they participated in a workshop or they submitted a paper and so on and so forth. So I think it becomes more important, the role of big institutions in terms of big institutions like IIT or Sorbonne or MIT, in being a sort of certifying that the information that they are communicating is proved to be, correct as best as possible. While on the contrary, what I see is, press releases and communication offices, claiming that, just because one person recorded from a neuron in a motor cortex, people will soon be, tetraplegic will soon be walking again. I mean, and I'm citing this sentence was written in an IEEE publication. So I wonder how we can try to enforce this integrity in other ways. Is it possible? I mean, how can we try to at least make people, make people aware of the fact that not everything that they read is correct, and that is what I think has been the major change, and where we should put, our effort more than on each individual person.
Yes, I mean, it's not a question. It's you have very well summarized the issue that we are facing. So there is a word communication here somewhere, publication and communication, but I've put it behind researchers, and I should have put it behind with institutions as well, because we are facing this pressure actually. And it gets back, in my opinion, also to the whole evaluation process, because also the institutions want to communicate on what their personnel has achieved, and they are pushing people to communicate immediately on something, and also they build over it. The example is great that you have given, and it gets back to let's reflect about this collectively, and insist on the fact that science has a slow pace. It's not something that is at the pace of social media. Science doesn't happen at this space, and that therefore the universities, the institutions who do scientific research should abide by this important point, which is science is a serious thing. It's not an opinion. It's not a fact that has just been discovered and already we jump to consequences. And therefore, communication, I think, must be rethought back in many institutions. I mean, in all institutions. And again, I probably didn't see it, but maybe it's there in this book. In this, if it's not, it should be there.
Thanks a lot. I mean, I just mentioned one last thing. We had a good friend, scientist, Jean-Paul Lomond. You remember him?
Of course.
And his one of his contribution in the last years was about rhetorics.
Yes.
And addressing the fact that when you communicate science, you not only have to think about scientists, but you have to think about the other people who's going to read. And if you claim something, it can be misinterpreted by someone else. So this is another things that people should consider. Rhetorics. And be fair with the presentations.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we are encouraged actually by the space of society that the rhetoric should really surpass what we have already actually done, which is a very wrong thing. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So last question from remote. Since all the AI tools are developing the science and technology horizontally, no novel idea as you mentioned, how exactly do you see that we as humans can develop technology vertically with the innovation? To be more clear, is there a more specific area that we should focus on, more as some areas can be completely dominated by the AI systems?
Well, I don't think there's any area that can be dominated by AI system because they don't understand anything about what they say. We have the illusion, again, of understanding. We have the illusion of reasoning because the results are presented in a very specific way. So when you interact with the generative AI system, the way it answers lets you, based on the human model, think that it has reasoned, that it has made arrived to some conclusions from some premises, whereas there is no reasoning process there. The word that are used, of course, are meaningless to the system when you look in details, but they are meaningful for us. So we interpret as if it was a human saying this, and the style encourages us. So first part of the answer is we don't leave anything to AI because AI doesn't understand anything. The second part of the answer is it's not an answer. It's what do you do when you reflect about a problem, about a scientific problem? Let me give an example. Do you think Newton would have come up with the gravitation theory just by observing apples falling down? No, of course not. I mean, I can give a field of apple trees and images of apple trees and apples falling down to ChatGPT. I'm sure it will not come up with the theory of gravitation. What happened with Newton is that he acted as a human being, which abstracts things, a human being whom is able of more abstraction, more reasoning about what we perceive. There is no recipe for that. It's not an algorithm. We are not. This leads to another topic. Are we a Turing machine? Are we just executing algorithm? It's not the algorithm. We have the capacity as humans to reflect, to abstract, to get out of the box in the way. And within the box, well, we do incremental things, but sometimes we get out of the box. And this is how knowledge advances. And again, there is no recipe for it. This is why those who are able to really advance knowledge are not so numerous, right? But they really advance knowledge. And so it takes many virtues. One of them is courage, but another is integrity. And another is this ability to abstract, which is not a virtue, but it's a quality of the human mind.
Thank you very much for your interesting talk. I would like to ask a suggestion more than a question because I think that as scientists we have a role, as you said before, also to list the issues related to the use of generative AI, and maybe talking with non-expert people that are not in the field of generative AI or robotics and so on. Sometimes generative AI is as seen only as a powerful tool without considering all also the issues related to it. And one of the points that you listed in your slide that was to when you use the generative AI, you can also have some for example, you can have also some false outputs, and the more the training, the more you can reduce it. And I agree with this point. And when I talk with non-expert people, and I talk about generative AI as a really powerful tool, I also make it take into account that this powerful tool could be mistaken sometimes. I remember that once it happened to me that some people told me, oh yeah, but also the humans can be mistaken. And so I thought in that case that
maybe people sometimes could underestimate the issue. Sometimes they, more than any issue, that generative AI could be mistaken. Sometimes it has seen as a similarity to the humans. So I would like to ask you, as ambassador of science, as ambassador of generative AI, how would you suggest us to support people not to underestimate some issues that maybe are shared with humans? I don't know if it's clear, the question. Thank you.
Oh, yes, it's very clear. Thank you. It's a central question. So, yes, many people, I mean, I can't count the number of times when I hear someone telling me, yes, you criticize generative AI, but we humans also do this and this. And then I stop the conversation saying, never compare to humans. An AI system never compare to humans. It's not because any feature, anything is in a way, from an observation, comparable to what a human does, that you can compare to human, because the processes are completely different. The consequences are completely different, and it's not the same thing. Actually, it's not the same thing at all. I can make mistakes. I can also confuse things, etc. But here we don't have a process of mistakes. It's not a mistake. It's a feature that AI systems do this. It's their nature in a way. It's not a mistake. It's not a confusion. No, they are just making correlations, and basically they don't have a grasp of understanding of what these words mean. And we humans have built this knowledge, this meaning, this capacity to interpret things through our experience with the real world. They don't interact with the real world. So when you speak about physical AI, it's not physical AI because it's not really interacting with the real world. It's not because you've plugged any active device that you build an understanding. To build an understanding, we have to interact with the real world our whole life, actually, and still we learn. So comparison with human doesn't stand. It's not because the system makes mistake that we have to compare it with human, but more, I don't want it to make mistakes. This is why I built it. Why is it doing mistakes? I mean, if I had just a calculator, I want to add numbers, I don't want it to make mistakes. Why is it useful if it makes mistakes? So the question of saying, oh no, let's excuse it, it made mistake, but we make mistake. What? No. So the whole issue of going into a conversation where you compare humans with machines is you are going to lose the discussion because you started with a wrong premise.
So at this point, I'm compelled to thank you for the discussion and the replies more than the talk, which is probably longer at this point. So sorry for that. I'm still beating on this nail, of how do we teach to users the mistakes of the limitation more than the mistakes of generative AI. Do you think it's a fair fight? I mean, we have on one side the industry that keeps building on the hype because they want to sell it, of course. I mean, it's their thing. They need to do that. And on the other side, we have researchers, for example, that can try to explain all the limitations, but like we're not getting any economical incentive for that. On one side, someone is paid to lie on the potential of AI. On the other side, we can try to do something, but it's not our primary job. No, we have to do research. And all the time we invest in telling people, no, actually, that doesn't really work that way. It's time we're not investing in doing our own thing. Do you have any suggestion? Do you see a way to do that, especially when we have like governments like keep thinking back to Trump, which has list of problems, not last of which the big investment that he had done on big companies' generative AI research. And that's again money that goes to companies, to the hype, and not to the actual grounding and the limitation explanation and looking for perhaps different approaches to this AI as helpful tools problem. So do you have anything on that?
Yes, tough question. Thank you very much. So the problem, I mean, you are raising many problems. One of them, just let me start with this one, is the how do we praise or how do we evaluate negative results? You know that negative results don't get their ways to publication usually. You have to demonstrate that something works and not that it doesn't. So in a way, it's similar to this because you are going to focus on the limitations of the system and not how. But if you don't know the limitation, you will not know how to make it work better. And just saying it doesn't work correctly is not enough. I mean, it's not scientific enough already. So, however, there are a lot of people working on these ideas of actually the system doesn't really reason, etc., etc. Well, but I agree with you. That's not enough, and there are no real incentives on doing this because people want systems that work. So I see maybe two things. One of them is to work to reduce the hype, if I may say so. I don't know how to say it. Reducing the hype means what? Means asking the producers of AI systems for the burden of proof and not the other way around, people to demonstrate that, no, it doesn't work. They have to build the burden of proof to come with systems that really work and also to stop saying things that are not scientifically grounded. I mean, I've read many papers by those companies, so-called scientific papers, saying that, well, it does this, it does this, it does this, as if it's really something that has emerged by miracle. I don't know. The problem is that these are not published. They are in their blogs or on archive. And how do you fight this? No way. You can always say things, but so I think the burden of the proof should be on those who build the systems. How do you make this an obligation? Well, by getting back to the standards of scientific research, but these are companies. But if they publish, they have to abide by the standards of scientific research. One of the standards of scientific research is when you cite state of the art and not any paper on anything that you found on the blog. And this is a major problem today. I read papers, many citations are archive paper, which means not reviewed, or even the blog of the companies. So we have also to evolve our practice and to explain to young students, young researchers, that they have also to abide by these rules. Another way, which is not realistic, but still, is the legal obligations. Since actually these are companies that are putting products on the market, well, we should enforce the law when it exists, and when it doesn't, we should fight so that the law is there to make these systems reliable, to make these systems transparent. I mean, whatever feature that is necessary so that the technology is adopted with confidence. So this is another way, because since they are selling something, there should be obligations on the product, which is not completely in place right now. Also, you didn't mention this, but I want to add, it's not just the companies who want to buy things and make money. It's the governments who are encouraging them to do so. And it's not just in the US. I mean, everywhere you have an AI policy, AI adoption, etc. No one wants to be left behind in this technology, even if they don't understand it and how to put it in place and all the problems that come forth. So there is also a responsibility on the side of our societies and our leaders to really look at this in more seriously, I would say.
So if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you, Professor Chatila.
Thank you for all. I want to thank the audience and online for all the questions, which are very, very challenging, actually.
And well, thank you to everyone for being here today. Before letting you go, I would like to remind you about our next seminar, which is going to be on the value of inclusion. It's going to be on the 10th of December. And we are going to have with us Professor Lawrence Fang from Stanford University. And Professor Fang is a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences, and he is an expert in neurodiversity. And he is, of course, well known for his work on promoting the inclusion of neurodivergent people in academic and workplace settings. So I really hope to see you all on that date.